Okay, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Stephanie McCullough, and I'm here from the Metro Planning Department. I'm here to, we're hosting this meeting tonight of the North Nashville Community Plan Amendment for 41st Avenue North at Indiana Avenue. Let's see. Okay. As I said, my name is Stephanie McCullough, and with us on the call is my dear friend Anna Grider, who is helping with question and answers and helping facilitate that process. We have the applicant team. From the applicant team, we have Brendan Bowles. And then last but not least, we have Council Representative Brandon Taylor. Councilman Taylor, would you like to say anything before we get started?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. So I'm going to try to be as brief as I can so we can get moving, because if we can give you some time back, we definitely will. So this is, I always like to start off in these type of meetings to tell you this is not a meeting that I'm hosting. This is hosted by the Planning Commission. By law, this meeting has to happen with a policy change. And I'll try to briefly explain it. I'm sure Ms. McCullough will do that as well. But you have a parcel. The parcel then sits on a piece of land. That parcel has a zoning, and then that piece of land has a policy. So the parcel tells what the zoning can do. The policy tells you what you can do by zoning. This parcel is asking for some changes in that zoning as well as in that policy, because the policy currently doesn't fit what this group would like to do with this property. I sent this out to you all as best I could. I think I've told everyone in the world I'm not a fan of the electronic meetings, because not everyone has access, and it's not the best and equitable way. So thank you for joining us. And if you see that there's a neighbor that's not on there that you think should know, just please take notes and share with your neighbors, because feedback is important to me. Because when I make decisions based on the response of you all. So feedback is extremely important. So that's all I have to say. Ms. McCullough, thank you. Anna Grider, I haven't seen you in a while, but I'm glad to see you here. So good to see you. And thank you for the time. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so introductions, and all the applicant team will have an opportunity to speak in just a moment. Where's my slides not coming? Okay. So meeting logistics, I know, because as Councilmember Taylor says, this is a little complicated. It's not the most equitable, especially if you don't have the access to this means. But and it's new. We haven't been doing it this way except for during the pandemic. So if you've been involved during a pandemic meeting, you know these things. But if not, then I'm happy to help. And if you have questions, then you can raise your hand on the. Well, I'll show you that in a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. So if you to find this meeting, you either got the notice that we sent out, or you looked online on the Planning Commission's website and saw the events listing, and there was a community meeting for North Nashville plan changes that you clicked on, and so that's how you got here. Everyone who's participating other than the panelists have their audio muted during the presentations. We'll have a Q&A session after this, and during the Q&A, you'll raise your virtual hand and we can unmute you and you can ask your question. Also, for people who weren't able to attend this meeting or weren't aware of it at the time, then we're recording this and we're going to post it on YouTube. I will, as soon as I can get it, I'm going to post it online, and I'll let Councilmember Taylor know when it's up, and then we can communicate and get the information out to people that way as well. Okay. So I talked about a question and answer panel and raising your hands. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should have a list, and it says participants, but you probably only see yourself. That's okay. We have got plenty of people in the call right now to talk to and to interact with. But to do that, you'll see here, can you see me pointing here? There's a little hand. Like if you see your name in the list, you can click beside your name and a little hand will pop up. And that's how we know that you want to be unmuted to have a question. At the bottom of that little participant section, excuse me, there's a Q&A panel, and you can type in a question there. If you don't want to ask your question out loud, you can type it in and we can get those questions answered that way. Okay. So this meeting, why are we doing this? I'm going to give the purpose of the meeting about the community plan amendment. I'm going to talk about that, give a little bit of background on community planning and how it all fits together with how policy and zoning fit together. And then I'm going to describe the requested land use policy for this case. Next, there'll be a timeline and kind of what to expect if this moves forward as it's tracking as it's tracking at the moment. And then the applicants will have a chance to present. And then after that, we will have the questions and discussion. So I will go through my part quickly, but quick enough that you understand what's going on. So why are we meeting? I'm going to describe the proposed changes to the area, explain the process, gather your feedback, whether it's through the question and answers during this session, or you call or email me afterward. And we use all of that to make the recommendations to the Planning Commission. Okay, so this is the study area. And so what you're looking at is, it's a little complicated because the red outlines that you see right now both red outlines are where we're talking about the plan amendment study, where we're deciding whether we want to go to this new policy. The one at the top here is the subject of the rezoning. So just to make it clear, we as community planners, we look at kind of a larger context when we look at policy zoning, policy amendments, just to make sure that it's the right fit for the area. So we're looking at how this policy would interact with the area overall. So this is Indiana that runs between them. 41st Avenue down this side. So you've got Preston Taylor homes here. Tomorrow's Hope is up in this area here. And then you have the gridded nations on this side, bound with the railroad line coming through. And of course, I-40 to the south, and then just south of that is Charlotte Avenue. Okay, here's a little close-up of the area. So you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. This section here at the bottom is part of the plan amendment study, whether it should change to the urban mixed-use neighborhood. This is whether it should change to the urban mixed-use neighborhood and be rezoned to the SP rezoning that the applicant has asked for. Okay, so where does all this come from? We start with Nashville Next. A little more detail about how we do community planning. Since the late 80s, we've had this community planning process. The county has been divided into 14 community planning areas. This particular project is in North Nashville, and this is how we divide the county to make a little more to guide the decision making for future built and natural environments. So these plans are created with the community and adopted by the Planning Commission and updated with the community. So those stagnant document snapshots in time with wow, I don't know where that came from. That was a random line, sorry. What I'm trying to say is this is how the community gets involved with the planning process, and we divide it out into sections so that we can take smaller bits and make sure that we are kind of meeting the needs of that area as well as the needs of the county. And this is all guided by our comprehensive plan, Nashville Next, which was adopted in 2015 and amended in 2017. Okay, as part of all of this, so we've got, the Nashville Next, which is the overarching plan for the county and the city, and then we have the community character manual, which is explains the policies within apply to each plan. So it takes those bigger sections and divides them into different topics. Provides a direction for the use of implementation tools such as zoning, or as another one be an urban design overlay, not part of this conversation. And they help shape and form the character of the community. Yeah, every property in Nashville has a land use policy, and then the zoning applied to it. So just as Councilman Taylor mentioned. Okay, but before we can even get to, one more thing, and then we can get to the actual project itself. So in addition to having the community character manual, it is organized by what is called the Transect. So there are different parts of the county that are different categories. This particular section is more of an urban area, so it's T4 urban. So it has different characteristics than what would be suburban or rural or even downtown or a center. As you go down the list, they get more intense. So urban is kind of in that middle space. Okay, so why are we even talking about this? Why are policies important? Policy is important because it is the guidance that rezoning requests are measured against. And if a zoning request is supported by the existing policy, there's a higher likelihood that the Planning Commission will recommend approval. Now, in this case, that's not the case. The zone change request is not consistent with the existing policy. Therefore, the applicant has requested an amendment to that land use so that they can move forward with the rezoning. So the change to the community plan, as Councilman Taylor said, public engagement is required to consider the request. And so this is one way we do community engagement. And when things are better and we're all vaccinated and COVID is gone, we'll have more community meetings, like in intimate settings. But I mean, moving forward, once spring hits, we could possibly be having more outside, or where we can socially distance and be safe. But we thought we would go ahead and give this a shot first to see who we could get online and understand who is interested in this project. So, land use and policy versus zoning, what's the difference? So this land use policy request is to change from district industrial to urban mixed use neighborhood. And I know that means nothing right now, so I'll get into that in just a moment. But the policies provide guidance and represent the vision for the area. Applying a policy change with a plan amendment does not change the current zoning. So in that area I was talking about to the south of the area that's requesting the zoning, we are not changing their zoning. That's a separate process. If they want to rezone to match the policy that's applied there, then they can do that in the future. Zoning is law. It's a set of regulations that control the physical development of land, including land use, density, height, setbacks, parking, access, landscaping, and signs. Zoning, of course, is influenced by the community plans. So that's how those two fit together. All right, so why are we here? The existing policy and the requested change. So the current policy in this area, and you can see it again, it's kind of strange. The white area is the district industrial policy area that is being requested to change to T4 mixed use. The way the property from the rezoning fits, there's already a little piece here that's in that T4 mixed use policy. So in a sense, they're asking for a continuation of that over the property. As planning, we look at it as, well, okay, that makes sense, but maybe we need to look at this larger piece. So we're kind of seeing about whether it makes sense to change the larger piece, or if it's just one piece, or if it needs to change to something else, depending on feedback we get from the community and analysis that we're performing at the moment. So the existing policy is district industrial, which is applied to maintain, create, or enhance areas that are dominated by one or more industrial activity. These places are strategically located and thoughtfully designed to serve the overall community or region, but not at the expense of immediate neighbors. These areas are not hazardous manufacturing, distribution centers, or mixed business parks and the supported uses. So district industrial, it sounds like it's going to be like a heavy industrial policy, but it's actually not as much as some of the other ones we have. It's kind of on the lighter end of industrial, if that makes any sense. So non-hazardous, but still having those operations. So anyone in this area knows there's the lumber yard and a couple of other things that have been there that are along that rail line that are served by that rail line. Okay. All right, so the requested policy is for urban mixed-use neighborhood, and its intent, of course, is to make these mixed-use neighborhoods. But in doing that, the characteristics of those neighborhoods there's a variety of housing types. Mixed use means that you also have options for commercial, institutional, and some light industrial development. That's kind of what we use for the maker spaces or live work kind of options that are available in other parts of the county. And I think one of the things most importantly is these areas are served by high levels of connectivity. So there are complete street networks with sidewalks and bikeways and greenways and connections to existing or planned mass transit. So this area would serve great for having some sort of access to the south to Charlotte Avenue, which is one of those main arterials in and out of Nashville, as well as connecting into other parts of the county, other parts of the neighborhood. Okay. So here's some of the things we consider when we're analyzing a policy change request. And they're in no particular order, but we look at of course, what Nashville Next says about the growth in the area, the North Nashville Community Plan, what its desires and intents are, what the intents are for that in that document. Walk Bike Nashville has the bikeways plans, and we look at those. Major and Collector Street Plan. A lot of times, if you're looking for something this intense as a mixed-use neighborhood, you want it next to a collector or an arterial, like a main road, if it's going to be extremely dense. This area is kind of interesting in that it has some connectivity. You get some of this, like this grid, to get you down and across to other parts of the city. And so this area, if you were to add to that, you would want to have that same connectivity. And making sure you can connect to the existing or planned mass transit, which Charlotte Pike is one of those corridors. Okay. Oh, sorry. Back to this one. So, we look at access. So, street connections, presence of sidewalks and bikeways, transit, road capacity, community sentiment. That's what what we're talking about right now. How do you feel about the project? What do you think? Do you think this is the right idea? Do you think it's too big or too much or too little? All of those things. And then lastly, we look at location and including how it proximity to downtown, because that's kind of where most of the intense development in the county is, and we kind of taper out as we move out of downtown. Surrounding land use policies, surrounding population density, visibility to the site is one of those strange ones, and then the fabric of the neighborhood, which also kind of gets into that whole kind of. It's kind of like the building characteristics of the neighborhood currently, and kind of where they're evolving to, looking at whether everything fits together. Okay, so with all of that, if everything goes to plan or as currently scheduled, the staff report that I would have to write for this, as well as a separate staff report for the specific plan zoning, would be posted on the Planning Commission's website on March 5th, my birthday. And then it would be heard at the Planning Commission on that following Thursday, March 11th. And I looked up the potential for the Metro Public Hearing calendar as related to the rezoning process that Planning Commission goes through. And if this is heard at March 11th, then it would be a public hearing on May 4th. Okay. I know there was a lot. So, okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brendan. Wrong button, sorry. Turn it over to Brendan McKinley-Horn, and he can talk about the SP plan and what they are planning to do for the site. Just a second.
Thank you, Stephanie and Councilman Taylor, for letting us have this opportunity to speak. I'll share my screen here and go over the plan that was included in your notice for this community meeting, if you were able to receive that in the mail. I know we sent out roughly a little over 300 notices for this community meeting. So hopefully everybody was able to get that. And let me go back just a little bit and get my screen to cooperate with me. So Stephanie described the site and the area that we're looking at, and just for maybe a little bit more context, you can see, if you can see my screen, this site is just west of 40th Avenue, which is a collector street that does take you down into Charlotte Pike, goes underneath I-40, and also connects you all the way back up to the north to Centennial. So that's the kind of the major collector street that would serve this site. And then we're looking at really this portion. If you can see kind of where I'm circling with my mouse, you can kind of see this land here, almost at the terminus of 41st as you kind of make this right turn on Indiana to get back to 40th. Partial, some of the zoning today is OR20, with one parcel over here by Mr. Taylor's church here, and then the rest is zoned industrial, and you can see the industrial use that's going on that Stephanie described in her presentation. One of the things that we're trying to do with this project is really, clean this area up some, and we don't think that the industrial use that's there today is really the highest and best use for the project. And so as Stephanie described, there's a little bit of that T4 mixed use policy on our property today that we're trying to develop, and really just want to pull that mixed use policy into the site a little bit further to allow for a single family residential project to be constructed. And I like what planning has done here, going ahead and trying to capture this other side of Indiana with the T4 mixed use policy. So if you bought a home that fronted Indiana, then, you potentially could have another home across the street as it could redevelop as well. I'll go back to the plan here. So this site is roughly 5.3 acres total, and right now we got about 150 single-family homes planned on this thing. It's a little under 30 units per acre. This product is all a for-sale product, so I know a lot of people may be not wanting to have rental, homes or short-term rentals or any of those types of things. None of that would occur with this project. This is all 100% for sale product, which I think is an important point to make for the project. These homes that you see here are all 3 stories in height, and then they have a step back. So if you can envision kind of a 3-story building, and then it steps back about 10 feet, and it has a 4th floor up above. And I'll show you some elevations and some renderings of that here in a minute. One important part that Stephanie hit on in her presentation was the connectivity of the streets and the street grid over here. It's a little bit strange, as I'm sure all of you know, that live in the community with the railroad, on the west side of this part of really this community and the nation's. And so one thing that we have committed to do is to reconstruct and rebuild 41st Avenue here between Indiana and Clifton. And it'll be a brand new public street. It'll have on-street parking, and it'll have, curb and gutter and sidewalks here, which we think is a big benefit to the community. And of course, we'll be cleaning up and addressing our sides of our property frontage with new curb and gutter, new sidewalk along Indiana and Clifton as well. All the parking, for the facility would be on site. We have enough parking per the code to meet all the tenants' needs on this project, so we don't anticipate, having a deficient parking situation. One thing about this, you saw those earlier images with the light industrial uses kind of, contiguous to the lumber yard that Stephanie mentioned. There's been some, over the years, as you can imagine, there has been some environmental contaminants and stuff that have been put on this site. And so as part of this project, the development team is committed to, hauling off all that contaminated soil and entering this site into the voluntary Brownfield program with the state of Tennessee. And that's, close to $1 million, if not over $1 million worth of investment that we're putting into this site to try and clean it up and make it really a better place for everybody. And I hope you all see the same, benefits in the street connection and cleaning up the site and really making this a much nicer part of the community. Let me start with this one, I think. Here's kind of a perspective image, if everybody can see that. But this is really at the intersection of 41st and Indiana. So this back to your left would be the new 41st connector. And these are some images of what could be built here if we get your, support and permission to continue this thing forward. But you can see kind of these 3-story units that have a patio up top, and then it steps back to a fourth story there. Here's another image. This is one of the kind of courtyards internal to the site. So these would show these units that really open up onto a private courtyard where we may have some stormwater treatment areas in here, but these all just face into this green open space here, which makes for a nice setup on your to come in and out of your front door. All of these units have rear garages. I can go back to this site plan here if you're interested. That image would be somewhere looking down in here in this courtyard. All of these buildings have garages inside of them, and then they also have parking on the outside. So you'd be able to park in your unit or out on the driveway. And here's just some more representative images. And I'll just say we're still in a preliminary stage, and welcome y'all's feedback and input on what we're trying to do here. As Stephanie mentioned, we're trying to gain support for the policy change from the community, as well as a rezoning from the community and Councilman Taylor, and welcome y'all's feedback to what we're showing you here tonight. But these are preliminary images. This is our vision and what we think would be a great addition to the neighborhood, and having the for sale product we believe is really important. And I know there's a lot of for rent, a lot of multifamily apartments going up all around town. I'm sure everybody has seen how many apartments we're getting in Nashville. So I'm really proud to be part of a project that has the for sale product. But these are the townhomes. You can kind of see the typical elevation. More elevations of the townhomes here. If anybody has questions specific, feel free to let me know. Obviously, answer them the best that I can. And these are the tri-pack buildings that are the purple color on your handout, which again, you can see how they're 3 stories, and they really step back to that 4th. But these are on the left side of your plan sheet in the purple boxes, or blue, depending on how your printer printed. That's really it, Stephanie.
Okay.
I think that as you start to think about the street network, and does it make sense to have, the policy change over here, we certainly like the idea of kind of recapturing a little bit of that in underutilized industrial land, and having that collector street on 40th, that takes you back to Charlotte and up to Centennial, and you'll be able to, walk on the sidewalks directly over to 40th right from this project if you wanted to.
Okay. Well, thank you. So there's all the information. Does anyone have any questions? And as I said, you can type those in, or you can click I see a question, but before, just a second. I noticed there's some folks who are on by phone, and unfortunately we can't take your call this way. Oh, I guess I can. I can't see if you have a question. That's the question. That's the tricky part. So if you do have questions for this and you haven't typed it in, or have another way to do that, please feel free to contact me, and I will put my contact information up in just a second, so that you can and you can email me, and we can talk through different issues, or some of the different elements of the project or not. So with that, I guess we will open it up. Anna, are you going to manage for me muting and folks unmuting?
I think I can do that, unless Don Trey has to do it. I'm keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, okay. You have to do that, Stephanie. Whoever has the host has to do that, unless she's a co-host.
Okay, well, I will do that. So I see Lucas Leverett. So let's start with that one. Oh, Lucas, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Always nice to see you, Stephanie.
Oh, thanks. It's been a
Of
minute
course,
now.
Brandon, my man Brandon, you invited questions, and you know I've been enthusiastic about this, and I think this project looks gorgeous. I think we could do basically anything on this site, and it would be an improvement. So that was a good bar to meet coming in. You know, we rent on 39th. We've been here for 6 years, so we break the previously mentioned mythology that renters are a risk. We're very active citizens. We treat this like a home we own, and we treat this like a community that we plan to be in forever. And I had the unique position of living here and working 3,000 feet before COVID from my house in the top corner of the Novatech building above the Five Points Pizza Shop. So I have observations and questions based on that crow's nest observation of this entire spread of land. One of the big ones involves all of our favorite people, TDOT. So there's a really bad traffic snag and pedestrian situation along the railroad tracks that feed over toward this development, crossing Charlotte right before 40th Avenue. There's a long break. There's not a crosswalk for people that are trying to go between 40th and Double Dogs, if anybody's kind of getting the picture. And then the other end, where they're building the current new building at the Lindsay Corner, I believe, is the development. And people tend to sprint across the road. And I've been told there are all sorts of weird rules based on how many people cross the street and how they think putting crosswalks in just encourages people to get hurt instead of showing them where to cross. And I'm really not sure where all that comes from. But I feel like this density, which I'm excited about, gives more opportunity for bicycles and pedestrians to be in a disadvantaged position at this particular railroad location. Then you have all the clueless folks that think that they can turn left on the railroad tracks to get to the parking for the pizza place. And so there's, I think, some coordination that's going to happen with that stretch to make everything make sense as the people that live here come and go, and the people that work, and then the people that visit for restaurants or shops. And I've literally sat over that situation. I watched poor little old lady drive her van onto the tracks and all these things that have happened. And that's something that's not going to get better by putting more people in line to turn left on 40th to get to these homes. And then there's an unused opportunity that I don't know who knows anything about, but there is a walking path under I-40 next to the railroad track. And that walking path would connect to the back of the Lindsay's Corner development if it were to be treated like something that mattered. It's already there, it's paved, but there's like a lot of homeless encampment and people are probably not inclined, and it gets grown over in the summer. But there's an opportunity here for bicycle and pedestrian traffic to walk out of the back of the Nations and walk straight into the heart of this Charlotte Avenue district. There's a really good opportunity for some connectivity, but I understand TDOT owns and administrates that zone under that overpass. So again, the people that we have a lot of trouble with sometimes might be somebody we have to coordinate with. If we can push them to act, I think you could really connect this community in some interesting ways. The big connection I'm concerned about is the cross streets. Now, Brandon, I wasn't 100% sure when you were talking about pushing through some of the street connectivity around that substation. So I know what I'm about to say may run up against reality, but I am always frustrated when streets dead end and 3 feet away, I can see the end of another street. And I think this development is an excellent chance to connect it on all sides to 42nd, 43rd, Indiana, Clifton. Let's plug it all in so that the residents can choose to come and go from any side and get out through all these arteries. And I know that the people that are going to move there that might not be as familiar are going to get creeped out when they look around at the neighbors, but they're going to have to get over that and drive down some of these streets. And I think that'll really help that congestion. And one of those items I would love to see for those out-of-towners is to make Clifton's name make some damn sense. Maybe we rename Indiana Clifton and find a new name for that little spur of Clifton. It makes no sense. It's a block away. And if we can, use this as an excuse to organize our community street grid and make it understandable and accessible, I think is a great win. And then the other thing is gentrification. I would hate to see this push out the people that aren't bothering anybody. They're just broke and trying to make it. But there are a lot of nice new things that got built on that back side back there that are now kind of not great. And I don't know if that was because of bad renters or bad landlords or whatever it is, but you got a beautiful development coming. But if anybody tours the area, they may be turned off to what's happened with it. But I also don't want the charity organizations that make excellent use of these areas to be run off by any neighbors that buy a very expensive property in this development that want to then, get what we call uppity and run away the charity just because they don't like the people standing on the sidewalk next to the charity. So we need fully integrated expectations, I think. And that is my TED Talk. Thank you.
You're muted, Stephanie.
Thanks, Anna. I was going to say thank you. Does anyone want to respond to that, or should we go to the next question/comment?
I'll respond real quick to Lucas's points. I thought there were a lot of really good ones in there. The connection of the street grid and some of those things down at Charlotte Pike and the railroad tracks. I mean, I think that's something that, we always need to pay attention and look for opportunities for improvement. One project can't always do all of those things. And so there's, a limit to what we can commit to doing. Right now, we are committed to building 41st, and connecting Indiana and Clifton. There has been talks with planning about extending 42nd in the future between Indiana and extending Clifton over. And we unfortunately aren't in the position to be able to do that with our project. But I think if the lumber yard ever does get developed, you will see that connection on 42nd go between Indiana and Clifton.
Okay. Thanks, Brendan. Okay. Jeannie. Miss
Hi.
Jeannie Dugan. Hi.
I am a new homeowner on 42nd Avenue, and I just have some questions because I was listening to you talk, and I love the fact that they're going to be single homes. They're very nice looking homes. I wanted to make sure I wrote this down correctly. Did you say it was 5.3 acres? And 150 single homes? That sounds like
That's
a
correct.
huge impact to the neighborhood. Will there be any types of traffic or any other types of studies performed to make sure that, some of us have bought there because we like the coziness. I know I heard Lucas's point about not being able to get to the street, but I bought on 42nd because it was a dead end. And I know things change, but I just wondered, it just seems like a huge impact to the neighborhood itself and the charm. And that's part of the challenge that you have with a growing city like Nashville is how do you keep some of it still neighborhood and feeling and have that community without, that's a lot of people coming in because it's not single people. It's going to be 2, 3, 4, maybe more per house. So
Right.
That was one of my points. The other thing that I wanted to understand, and forgive me, I just don't know what brown space is, and maybe I wrote that down wrong. I kind of know what green space is. So are you suggesting developing a common area for the community or cleaning up the contaminated area? That's what I was kind of lost on.
Brandon, why don't you take the brownfield question first? Or
Yeah, Jeannie, thanks for your question. The state of Tennessee has a what they call a brownfield program that you can enter into if there's contamination on the site that you're proposing for development. And basically, we go in and we do a lot of soil sampling on the property to determine what contaminants are there. We, as part of the development process, will stockpile those materials that are contaminated, and we'll take them to a special waste facility that is licensed to handle those type of contaminants. And that process that you go through with the state is called a voluntary brownfield program with TDEC, the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. And you enter into that program voluntarily, acknowledging that there's waste on the site or contaminants on the site, and then you clean it up as part of the deal. And so there'll be all that stuff will get handled appropriately, and then there'll be vapor barriers put down underneath all the homes, so there won't be any risk to people that purchase the homes there in the future.
thank you, Brendan. And then the second part about the traffic study, yes, there will have to be a traffic study for this project of this level. I don't know if it's been done just yet. That's part of the process of the rezoning, but that is something that's considered with the SP process. Okay. Do we have any other questions? If Miss Jeannie and Lucas, could you click yourselves again and put your hands down? Although I don't see any other hands at the moment. Oh, okay. Mr. Eldridge Simmons, let me unmute you, sir. Okay.
Yes, how you doing? This is Eldridge Simmons. I'm at 43rd Avenue North. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
The project is nice, but 150 homes bringing in 2 cars, that's going to put 300 and some cars in the area. And once you develop that piece of property, eventually the lumberyard is going to eventually decide to sell or remodel. And that's going to put another 150 to 200 homes in the property, in the area. My concern is, I like where I'm at. Like Ms. Stephanie said, I've been here for a while, and I don't want to see another Nations. I don't want to see another Charlotte Avenue with townhomes and condos and apartments in this area, because we actually put a maintenance overlay over the community that we didn't want any 3-story homes, but you managed to get around that situation by building garages on the first floor. So that's a problem. But like I said, the project looks good. 150 homes, 300 cars, individuals coming in. And once you start, we have a project now that they started out with $150,000 homes. Now they have a sign saying $400,000 homes right here on 40th Avenue, 44th, just across the tracks. They went from $150,000 homes to $400,000 homes. And that's what I see once this is developed. There's an increase in the property value, taxes going up, and a person like myself eventually gonna have to leave the neighborhood. And I don't want to leave the neighborhood because I can't find a $150,000 home in Nashville. And Nashville's been my home, and I want to keep it this way. So my thing is, what are you looking for as far as the future is concerned for the community? Brandon?
Mr. Simmons, are you calling on Councilman Taylor or Mr. Bowles?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Brandon Taylor.
We got Brendan and Brandon, so I was kind of confused there. Sorry.
Brandon Taylor. I'm sorry, I forgot it was 2 of them.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Good to see you. Of course, you know, to be quite honest, one of the things I say a lot is when you run for office, you take yourself out of making this decision. That's why we have these meetings. When we, you know, when we look to make these decisions, you know, I think I've mentioned several times that industrial districts and industrial zoning is something that, in regards to protecting the community, is something that I want to see kind of change a bit. That is this close to the community. I'm taking notes here. One of the things I have heard a lot, even before tonight, as people reached out to me and got questioning, was the density. And looking at the density is one of the areas that I'm concerned about in response to the neighborhood. So I think taking a look at this development, as we got a chance to watch through it, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's really nice. It's not, I think it will add to the community. But one of the things I do want to take back is understanding the density and how that will definitely affect or impact the surrounding neighborhoods and the current neighborhood that it's in. Because with I-40, there's not a lot of space to build for accessibility, right? And so we've got to take that into consideration. And so hopefully, as we continue to communicate, you know, I can get more feedback from you all and neighbors to make the best decision for what is best for the community and the constituents there now.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Do you have your hand up for another comment? Or
I do.
No,
I just
who's that? Oh, I'm sorry.
I do. I wanted to just be aware we have several individuals. I'm looking at the attendees list on the call-in number. I don't know if anyone has any questions. They can't raise their hands. So if they do have some questions, and I'll tell you guys, I don't know if you've received the, I don't think they have, right, Brendan? I was very clear that I wanted you all to receive the renderings and everything in the mail. I don't think you did. And so hopefully they can get that out to you probably tomorrow morning, right, Brendan?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we want to get those out in the mail because not everyone is able to see what we keep referring to what we see. Not everyone's able to see it. And so with that, I do know we have a few people on the phone and we want to make sure if they have any questions, they can't raise their hand. And and I just want to make sure that we can get to them in enough time.
Okay. Well, that was my suggestion is I'm going to post everything online tomorrow. And then if anyone who could not see the presentation or couldn't get in to get their question in, and I see you, Mr. John, I'm going to get to you in just a moment. And that may be our last one, I think. I don't see anyone else on the queue. But yes, for those of you who called in and can't see things, we'll try to get those images out to you as quick as I can. And as always, you can call. I'm trying to share my screen for just a moment, and so you can see. Well, I'll share and I'll read aloud. How about that? My contact information. So let's see. If I can get my slides to work right. Okay. So that's still wrong. Bear with me. Let's see. Okay. So if you, so we're going to record this. It's at Planning Commission tentatively on March 11th. My email address is stephaniemccullough@nashville.gov. And that's Stephanie with a PHANIE. McCullough is MCCULLOUGH @nashville.gov. And my office number is 615-880-3239. Now with that number, please leave me a message. It routes to my phone since we're working from home and I kind of can't always get to it when I need to. So I do it in bunches and I kind of go back and answer calls in that way. So if you haven't heard from me right away, I'm going to get to you as soon as I can. Email, call, and I can walk you through whatever you need. Okay. Do we have any other questions? I can't see now that I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, you have John has his hand raised.
Sorry, give me a second. I'll have to stop sharing and John, there you go. Sorry, sir.
Oh, thank you. Hey, y'all. Thanks for allowing me to share for a second. My name is John Wagman. I have been working for the last 3 years out of an office on Indiana Avenue. We're now in 4005 Indiana Avenue is our office. We heard about this plan and have been kind of taking a look at it. And I don't know if I have a real opinion to share on it. Maybe more what I got out of this today is I'd love to I can't wait for a chance or a time that we have more community meetings where we can kind of share what's going on. I know just in talking with my neighbors in the area, and some of whom probably don't have access to this, as Councilman Taylor mentioned early on when he was talking, is just the feedback that I would like to share is it would be really great as people are planning developments in these areas, and especially in these large acreage industrial parcels, if they were more of a blend of not just purely residential, but had some of the other things that we've heard that the community needs. There seems to be a lack of fresh food, lack of maybe just easy to get to groceries, carry out, just whatever that looks like, little shops, things that wouldn't just make this, it's just purely residential. I don't know if this is the project for that or if other projects will address that in the future. But we have this beautiful neighborhood that is really easy to get to. And I know that it would be really great to have a place that we could walk to that's in this neighborhood and not down the Charlotte corridor to be able to eat and just be a part of the community, whatever that looks like. So I just wanted to share my 2 cents on that, just from our experience with our neighbors in our little 40th Avenue kind of community in that area, just what people would like to see.
Okay,
So
thank you. That is definitely something that can take into consideration, and you're not the first community to say those things. So that's, yeah, definitely something to think about. I'll leave it at that. I'll add that to the list of things to think about. Let's see.
Stephanie, one thing that.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Councilman Taylor.
There has been conversations. So guys, we're going to be talking a lot. This is an area that is of interest to many people. And so there have been conversations in regards to a market and more retail in this area too. So that has been heard from me loud and clear from this community with the, because you have to either go to White Bridge Road or past it. And there's not a lot of options for you. So there's been conversations there. So again, we'll be talking very soon. There'll probably be another meeting in about 3 weeks about something totally different, but just wanted to share that with you.
Okay. Brendan Bowles, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, I just wanted to have one other little small detail to add, that there'll be about, of the 150 units that are planned here, we understand there's concerns about the density. About 20% of those will be, 1 bedroom units, a 600 square foot unit. So do have a mix of unit types, which I think is a good thing for the community. There are 1s, 2s, 2 bedrooms, some 3s, and a few 4s in there too. But 20% of them will be 1 bedroom units with, single occupant, single car type situations. So in the traffic study, we are finalizing that and getting that submitted and reviewed by Public Works. It's already been submitted, and be glad to share it to the community if anybody wants to see it. Are doing some pedestrian upgrades as part of our project, improving some ADA ramps, some crosswalks, filling in some sidewalk gaps and things like that to make it a better environment for pedestrians.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let's see. Lucas wrote, 1 bedroom is still 2 cars until we truly break the transit lockup. Yeah, that's kind of where we are. So fair enough. All right. Are there any more questions? Okay. Well, this is one of the few ones that has ran a full hour for me. So thank you. It's been a really good one. Great attendance for some of these. So Councilman Taylor, you drummed up a good crowd. Thank you. I'm still ready if you feel like we need to do another community meeting in the community and it's warm enough and we can do like a circle, we can work that out as well, just depending on how we move from here. Okay, with that, I think we're all good. Any last words?
No. Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone who participated. Thank you everyone who listened in on the call. If you have any questions, please contact me. If you can't see the slides or anything, I'll figure out a way to get them to you. So thanks, and I will see you all soon. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.